Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions. Well, maybe. Life is a fight. In business, every day is a fight. So, hey, what's your problem?
Thank you, John David Wells, as always. This is the What's Your Problem podcast. Check us out at what'syourproblempodcast.com. And yes, occasionally we will have solutions to whatever problems our guests are having. But until then, we may not. You just never know. From the Blvd HQ in Spring Hill, this is the What's Your Problem podcast. Check us out at big.lighting.com, big.electrical.com. This is a podcast about business owners and professionals all around the Middle Tennessee area. Occasionally we go beyond. We'll bring somebody in from the outside and talk about their issues and all that fun stuff. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com. And today, we've got a special guest hailing all the way down from Brentwood, Franklin area. Franklin. Mr. John Attorney John Griffith. Sir, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Mr. Jim.
It's been a while since you and I have talked and sat down and had fun and all that fun stuff. So this should be a good conversation. If you ever wanted your questions answered regarding personal injury attorneys, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of that here coming up. So with that being said, what we're going to do, as we always start off, is with the 5 random questions. Random 5. You ready?
Okay, I thought that might be at the end. But
this is going to be, we're getting the juices flowing. That's how we get the energy going, right? All right, here we go. Question number 1, and I'm bad at math because I was in radio in the car business, so occasionally I'll do 4 questions thinking that they're 5. Number 1, what job would you be terrible at?
Accounting.
I agree. Not for you, but for me as well.
Yeah, I mean...
I like that you know that right off the bat.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate all things accounting.
Yeah. I'm kind of going through that right now because I'm really bad at categorizing my expenses throughout the year. Yeah. So I have to do it all at once.
Or any job that I had to be like totally by myself and isolated. I'm a people person.
You're a personality. Well, I think you always have been.
Well, I don't try to be over the top, but I just love people, man.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I think part of being what you do, you have to have a personality. You got to be a ham of some sort. Okay, number 2, is there any art or artist you are really into?
Yes. And I've forgotten his name.
What kind of art or art does he produce?
God, having a brain freeze.
Is it a music?
It's a music. The guy who plays guitar did the remake of Free Fallin'. He's a great guitar player, and I watch him all the time. My mind's just gone.
He's gone blank, but you have somebody in mind. I don't know.
Well, him. I play guitar. I play that guitar, and I just love watching great musicians.
Yes, it is a lot of fun watching people in their element.
And some people are just virtuosos. I mean, they're just born that way.
Well, I mean, last year we saw the death of Eddie Van Halen, and watching him play was just nothing short of amazing.
He was
so natural.
Such an influence in my life.
Was he a big influence for you?
Yeah, my first guitar was a Kramer just like his.
Was it the Frankenstein model?
No, it was just it was black, and I tried to paint it, but it had this gloss finish, and I just totally ruined the guitar.
Yeah, I would like to actually at some point get one of my walls painted like the Frankenstein.
Yeah, John Mayer.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
he's very talented.
He's an extremely talented musician.
Yes, Bruno Mars and also Ed Sheeran.
Yes.
Did you see Ed Sheeran when he came to Titan Stadium?
No, I didn't.
Nissan Stadium, rather.
Brad Paisley's also an excellent guitarist.
Keith Urban.
I'm not into all that chicken picking stuff, but I respect him as a musician. He's incredible.
Well, I believe the chicken picking type stuff comes from Spanish flamenco.
Well, I'm just gonna have to take your word from that. I don't know about that, but it's a totally different style of playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 3, what would be some of the most annoying things about having yourself as a roommate?
Oh, I can be a slob sometimes. I'm not very well kept. Fortunately, I've got a wife who's the opposite of me, and she keeps me. You know, I go into a room and there's clutter everywhere. I'm distressed.
Yeah. I
What else? If it was just me, I'd probably leave the toilet seat up all the time. I just think, why can't the toilet seat be up instead of down?
I asked that same question.
Why don't the women raise the seat when they're done? Why is it the other way?
It's a very good question. I've thought of the same thing. I'm thinking the same lines, man. What is the best meal you've ever had? I think this is number 4. See, I told you I can't count.
The best meal I've ever had. Gosh, I'm a very simple guy when it comes to eating. I mean, just feed me. I like simple stuff. That's maybe Sperry's. I love their fillets. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not.
I don't think I've ever eaten there.
Yeah,
Sperry's.
Yeah, it's.
Check them out. Sperry's in Franklin, Cool Springs.
And there's a new Perry's in
Is
Franklin.
there?
Yeah,
Really?
right at McEwen Drive.
Really?
Yeah, so I haven't. It just opened like a month or so ago. So I'm like sushi. I mean, I'm just a sushi fan. There's you know that.
My kids and my wife love sushi. I could never get into it.
Best place I've ever eaten. Was that the question? The best place?
Best meal you've ever had.
Best meal. I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. My wife fixed me some salmon after we had fasted for several days. That was one of the best meals I've ever had.
I guess the first meal to break a fast would
Yeah,
be.
that's right.
Yeah. All right. What simple change would you make in your life that would have the biggest positive impact?
To be more consistent with my miracle morning routine.
Oh, you do the Hal Elrod thing?
Hal Elrod.
Do you?
That really changed my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to overstate something, but in my 30s, I wasted a lot of time. I would sleep till, I need to be work at 8 o'clock. I'd sleep till 7:15.
Right. What do you do now?
Now, I've been off this for about 3 or 4 weeks, but now I get up at 4:45, 4:30.
Is it natural though? Do you feel like you have to force
natural?
It? Really?
It's becoming natural.
What time do you go to bed?
10, 9:30. Take a little melatonin around 9:15.
Okay.
Sometimes when we're not in a blitzkrieg of Netflix, if we're in that, I love it and I hate it because it's just a lot of wasted time. I've got so much stuff I want to be reading and bettering myself. I've got a problem in that I don't read a lot of fiction. I'll watch shows that are obviously fiction, but I enjoy learning all the time. And I enjoy learning. I've kind of got just a weird thing about me that I enjoy learning about the law. I love my craft. I love what I do. And so it's a little bit OCD on me. I'm just kind of always doing legal stuff. There's so many books and resources now that weren't available when I first started practicing as far as trial work and
the game has changed though drastically in the last 10, 15 years from what I understand, right?
It has. It's changed. It started changing about 20 years ago when I first got in the practice of law. It was easier then. Now it's just much harder.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of tort reform coming into fruition and getting national attention, and the McDonald's case, and insurance companies were utilizing that against us. And so we kind of had to change the game of how we get fair verdicts again. So that used to, I think 25 years ago, you started even. Now, when you bring a case into court, you're starting in a hole. And you can't lose your credibility. You've got to be extra credible, and the defense has to lose some credibility, and then maybe you're even at that point.
I've got 2 points of familiarity with your business.
Okay.
One of which being that my brother's an attorney, but he's a contract attorney for business and things of that nature. The other point was I used to work fairly closely with a company called CJ Advertising, which is a personal injury attorney marketing firm and public relations. And Arnie Malham was the CEO for many years. He sold the company a few years back, but he brought me in to do videos on a lot of his clients. They would fly them in from different parts of the country, and I would just do my thing like we're doing now and just talk with them, interview them. And one of the biggest things I would ask was, what's the biggest misperception of what you do from the public? And they would always say, they just don't understand how the insurance companies are just not on their side. We get a bad rap because the insurance companies are really the ones that have just killed us.
Right.
Is that still the case?
It's still the case.
Really?
I just could never do that job. I've got good friends that I respect that do defense work, but they're kind of few and far between.
Yeah.
And it's just about winning with them. It's never about doing the right thing.
Right. Well, I mean, and they've also taken the narrative of the public relations and painting you guys as the bad guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, there are some guys that bear that burden honestly. I mean, they've done some bad things, or the things that we avoid that I don't like. There's what I call some bottom feeder attorneys, and they're the ones that have close relationships with doctors that go out and just troll cases, right. And they say, hey, come treat with us, and by the way, we've got a lawyer that'll come in here and do that. I just don't like that. I don't refer my clients to doctors. It just, even though there are good doctors out there, and sometimes you might give them some names, but the worst thing that you could see is, hey, how did you get to this attorney? Oh, my attorney sent me to this doctor. It looks like there's a quid pro quo. There's, some backhanded deals going on, and when there's really not. But you've got to avoid that at all costs. You can't have that type of perception.
I mean, with the power that they had and the money with the marketing that they could do, they put a magnifying glass on you guys. So every industry has got the bad apples, no matter where you go, right? Bad doctors, you've got bad policemen, bad fire. You got bad people in all these types of industries. But man, when you get hyper focused on it, it can really create that stigma. And they, start lumping you into a public perception pile. But the reality is, from what I learned from some of the attorneys I talked to with CJ, is that, look, we're just trying to do the right thing for our client. They got hurt. This is something happening. And the insurance company saying that doesn't want to live up to their end of the deal.
We kind of have this chuckle every time we sign up a new client is they all say the same thing. I'm saying 98% say this.
Right.
I'm not the type that would ever sue somebody, but let me tell you, finish sentence about how the insurance company's screwing them over, or they're not going to pay for this. The biggest thing,
they've reached their pain threshold where they've been forced into action.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And many times you've got, even there's one legislator that I represented who was a big tort reformer. He's like, I had no idea what I was pushing through. I didn't realize. He only looked at the quote frivolous cases or cases he thought was frivolous.
Right.
But he said, well, this is not a frivolous case. I'm like, well, according to the insurance company, it is. So they changed their opinion, but only after it personally affects them. And nobody goes down the road today, driving down the road thinking, tort reform's a terrible idea. You're capped in Tennessee. Once you cross the line into Tennessee and you're hurt by a truck driver from New Mexico who's not supposed to be driving, who doesn't even have a valid CDL.
Right.
If they injure you catastrophically, you're capped at $750,000 of non-economic damages, meaning pain and suffering type damages.
Right.
It's a travesty, but we've gone out of our way to protect the people that hurt other people.
Right.
All in the name of big business, and I'm a conservative guy. I'm extremely conservative. You break it, you pay for it. Personal responsibility, that's always my theme. But this is not responsible. This is giving those who do the most harm the biggest break.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes me think that it doesn't seem like we're as litigious as a country as we were 15, 20 years ago. It used to be it felt like it was really rampant.
I've got a slide presentation based on facts, based on science and numbers, that the number of cases filed in Tennessee since 2011 has gone down about 35%.
Right.
So as our population has increased, all the people from California and New York moving here, and our population increasing, and other places too. I'm just joking, but all the bad places, everybody's fleeing today. I'm like, please don't turn us into California or New York. But that's another
just takes
discussion.
time, man.
That's right. But the number of cases filed has gone down significantly.
Right.
And the number of civil tort cases has gone down. How do you mesh those two? How do you mesh increased, more people bumping into each other and less litigation? We're not a litigious society. Tennessee is known to be extremely conservative, and the verdicts are lower here too.
Right.
There's plenty of protection here.
Well, the other aspect and the point of familiarity I have with your business is, like I said, through my brother, and he and I had a very frank conversation about 2 months ago about, and he's my older brother. So whenever he gets this transparent with me, I just always sit up and pay attention because he was getting very real. And he says a lot of people think that all we do is make gobs of money and it's all on retainer and we get it every month. He says the insurance companies took care of the retainer. We don't get those anymore. And we got to go out and hunt and kill constantly. It's a never-ending cycle of just finding new customers and keeping your billable hours up.
Yeah. Fortunately, I don't bill by the hour, but I'll tell you what Tennessee is moving to. A lot of states outlaw this insurance practice, but a lot of insurance companies have in-house lawyers. Mm-hmm. Like you got Geico and all these companies in-house. They call them the law offices of like Julie Peak or something like that, but it's a sham. They're all paid by the insurance company. It looks independent. If you Google them, like during a trial when jurors are not supposed to do that, but if they do, you don't find them. They don't exist. They're not on the internet.
Oh, wow.
They're just not there. They don't have a website. They don't have their lawyers listed. You might find them on LinkedIn or something like that personally, but you don't find them. And they're in-house lawyers, and they're paid by so who are they protecting? Yeah. They're not protecting the clients. They just, I think it's unethical. And a lot of states have ruled that's unethical, but they have so many advantages. Our legislature seems to love insurance companies in the state. They really do.
I mean, it's they got, it's when you require people to carry insurance, it's kind of a nice thing for the insurance providers. But that's why we got so many insurance representatives out there.
Yeah. And the other big sham the thing that people don't realize is when you go to court, insurance is not admissible. Mm-hmm. So whether a person is or is not insured, and I've never tried a case where there hasn't been insurance all over the courtroom. Nobody's, Jim, I've handled close to 4,000 cases, me and my office. The number of times we've taken money out of somebody's pocket directly, out of all those, is 2 times.
Really?
And one time you had somebody that was, I'm not a Class MBA guy, but he had tons of money, multi-million, like $25 million, and he had $100,000 coverage, and he hit somebody, and she lost her leg because of it, and only $100,000. I'm like, that's
not going to cover it.
No. So there's this perception that lawyers are out there taking money out of people's pocket. It just doesn't happen. Normally what happens if somebody causes a big loss and we call it an excess case, it's worth more than what the insurance is available. Mm-hmm. It's not worth the extra effort to collect it. If a person only has $50,000 of coverage and they don't have significant assets, then it's not worth doing it. So you take the money, you sign a release, it's done. Person never worries about it again. Mm-hmm. The chance of them paying anything out of their pocket is extremely, it's an outlier.
Right. Well, I mean, what's the biggest misperception you have to contend with on an ongoing basis?
Well, that's it. And insurance in the courtroom. And so, jury selection is very important. And to me, you can try the perfect case, but if you got 2 bad jurors or 1 bad juror, you've lost your case. So jury selection is important. So that's an important topic that I always address. Like at the end of the case, you're not going to be able to talk about insurance. There's a rule that says you can't do that. Where does that leave us? What do you think about that? And I'll have people say, I'll be worried that it's going to hurt the defendant. I was like, well, at the end of the case, you're going to be instructed that's not a real reason. I mean, that's not a legal reason to reduce your verdict. How do you feel about that? And my clients are entitled to a fair jury. And so I'm like, that person doesn't belong on the jury if they think that. The truth is insurance is out there in every trial. If you're a juror in a case, on a civil auto case, that lawyer for the defendant has been paid for by the insurance company. The judgment's going to be paid by the insurance company. That's what insurance companies' jobs are. So that is the biggest misperception.
Well, I mean, to be fair, but not to be an advocate for the insurance companies, they got to, if it was all Katie bar the door type of scenario for them, they'd be out of business in a blink of an eye. So they got to protect themselves to some certain extent, I would imagine.
Yeah, really just fairness is what I want. I just don't want them. I'm not saying that to know there's insurance, but to not reduce your verdict because you're worried that there might not be insurance, because you can't sue an insurance company. I can't sue Nationwide or State Farm. I have to sue the defendant who did this.
I got to say though, the media has kind of sunk their teeth into the insurance companies recently, not painting a very good picture for them, because a lot of people are starting to, they're thinking less about the personal injury attorneys and more about what you're talking about. I think that's what my optics are telling me. One thing that comes to mind that you mentioned earlier was the McDonald's hot coffee case. What about that case does the public perceive? What is it that what the media was telling them? Do you recall? And then there's a reality to it that we'll get to.
Yeah, and I never re-argue that. It's like trying to tame a wild horse, you know? So the perception's already in stone, but the truth is that attorney in that case, for Stella Liebeck, was a plaintiff, and he did a really good job of digging in at McDonald's and seeing the hundreds and hundreds of complaints they had with coffee. It was too hot. They knew it was too hot. They didn't care anyway because they could use a lesser grade coffee. I would never argue this in front of a jury or try to make it seem reasonable. But the jury found her partially at fault. You know, there wasn't, and they reduced the damages. I mean, there was a multi-million-dollar verdict, I think. I can't remember what it was. But it got reduced to like $200,000. The judge reduced it.
Yeah.
And this lady had severe vaginal burns that were life-changing. She passed away a couple of years ago.
Well, I mean, the whole optics of it, the public perception, from what I remember, was that she didn't know the coffee was hot. How do you not know the coffee is hot? And blah, blah, blah. She sued McDonald's because the coffee was hot, you know. So therefore they put, blame in the stupidity of the whole scenario on the victim. Well, how do you know it wasn't hot?
And obviously coffee is hot, but the difference was this coffee was like
scalding,
and it was way above what was recommended under the safety guidelines, and it scalded her vaginal area in less than 2 seconds. It was that hot, or 3 seconds. Whereas other coffee at 180 degrees or less, or 170, whatever it's supposed to be, will scald in like 8 seconds or 7 seconds.
But this is the kind of thing that people aren't hearing about in the media.
Yeah, but nobody cares.
No, they care about the drama and, the fanfare and things of that nature. But there was also the element of the lid wasn't put on the correct way. And when she put it down between her on her lap, she probably went to go grip it, and then the lid popped off, and that's how it happened, I guess, right?
But there are some common problems, and I write about it in my book. These are the biggest problems that insurance companies really focus on. And I just had a trial last week, one of the first trials in Davidson County, and I always teach my lawyers and my staff and tell my clients this. Insurance companies don't jurors don't evaluate these cases as far as pain and suffering goes the way that insurance lawyers do and adjusters, and they're trying to dumb it down. So you might have a year of treatment. They only want to pay $1,000 for that. And it's an inconvenience. Old days we used to have an eye for an eye and tooth for tooth, but our forefathers were smart enough to say in the 7th Amendment, no, it's money damages. This is not something lawyers came up with. This is what our forefathers came up with. And it's like the case that I just had. We mediated it. There were about close to 100,000 demands. They offered 130 for a neck surgery.
Wow. And
so we go to trial, and we tried to settle this case for 300,000 or 250, less than that. I can't remember what it was, somewhere in that range. And jury gave us for a lifetime of harm. I got a lady that's 38 years old. She's got 44 years of life expectancy. She's got a permanent injury for the rest of her life. Probably going to need another surgery in the future. And they gave her medical bills and past pain and suffering, and a total of $400,000.
So above and beyond what you were looking for?
No, I asked for more than that. I mean, it's kind of like, hey, you cut your losses before trial. It's like, listen, I didn't see my family for 2 weeks in this trial. I mean, I was at the office till midnight, up at 4 o'clock for 2 weeks, just getting ready for this and trying it. I was exhausted, but the point is, like, if somebody damaged your car, but they're not wanting to pay for it. Let me give you an example. You had $10,000 damage. Somebody hit your car at Walmart parking lot. You already had some damage on that, Jim. I'm really not going to pay for that. And like, well, still, you caused this $10,000 damage. I'll give you $3,000. How about that? Well, no, that's not right. Well, I'm sorry. I admit that I'm at fault. I'm taking responsibility. I'm personal responsibility. Here's $3,500. No, I'm not going to do that. Go to court. You're like, man, look, give me $9,000. I'll eat the $1,000 loss that I have, or $8,000. And then you get to court and like, I want the full $10,000. Now, you've made me do this. You've made me wait 3 years and get a lawyer and do all this stuff and go through this inconvenience. I want the full thing. So we'll settle the cases for less than full value at first. I mean, not much less, but we'll do that. We're not greedy because we do that. I don't think we are. I'm trying to represent my client who's had this problem thrust into her life unnecessarily through absolutely no fault of her own.
It becomes about principle at that point.
Partially.
When you put that much time into it.
And
absolutely.
the other misconception is, here's what the insurance companies do. There are these doctors that show up for the insurance companies, and they're in these white robes, and the jury doesn't know. They don't have the benefit of the 30,000-foot view saying this doctor testifies all the time for this same insurance company and these same defense lawyers. These guys are frauds and fakes, and they're a stain on the justice system, and I despise them. If there's one thing I'm known for in Middle Tennessee is I go after these guys with gusto. When towards the end of my career, I'm going to get billboards calling these guys out because the last case I had, there's a guy, the doctor in Nashville, and I can say this. His name's Sean Kaminsky. He's a shoulder doctor, and he was going against my neck surgeon doctor in this case. And he's not even the right specialty to give an opinion on this. But he says, oh, none of this is related. It's related to degeneration. And she's 34 years old, and she had no significant degeneration. They make this stuff up, and it's just confuse the jury, question everything, prove nothing. And you can tell I'm getting excited about it. I get so frustrated. So I've kind of got this little cottage industry. A lot of lawyers come to me and say, hey, man, do you have anything on Dr. Wagner or Dr. Kaminsky? Yeah, man, I got a ton of stuff on these guys. I'll share it with you. I'll help you every way that I can. I'll take the deposition for you if you want me to. But I think that was a turning point in our last case. I think the jury saw how we exposed Dr. Kaminsky for his lack of merit in this case.
Well, it's professional witness territory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Paid professional opinion witness
Right.
is what he is.
Yeah.
And courtroom doctor. He's in
And that's a thing. A lot of people don't realize that is a thing. You can be called in as a professional witness for certain cases, and, it could become a side hustle of sorts.
It is. They make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this.
Incredible.
As a side job.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask them, and defense attorneys throw fits when I ask these questions, but I'll ask at the first of a deposition. I'll say, doctor, what did you go to medical school for? And they'll say, I just wanted to help people. And then at the end, after they've told about how none of this is related and you shouldn't pay for any of this medical treatment for the plaintiff in this case, I'll say, doctor, who are you helping? You said you went to medical school to help people. Who are you helping other than the defense lawyers and your pocketbook in this case? Objection. We don't want you to say so. That's too argumentative. They do everything they can to exclude it. So anyway, I'm like Don Quixote on this issue. I want to just destroy these guys because it's just not honest. It's false testimony. If you got a valid defense, make it, but don't just come with the doctor who has no basis or very tenuous basis for their opinions. It's frustrating, but I love it. I don't know why I complain so much because these guys make my case. Yeah. They make my case. I can show what frauds they are, and I just love it.
Yeah. That's what you get out of it. What's the biggest thing that frustrates you, though, about what you do?
The time to get it to trial and the delays by the insurance company. I mean, the way I look at it and train my lawyers, like the day this wreck happened to Jim McCarthy was the day that the insurance company owed him that money. And they've held on to their money like it's their own children and protected at all costs for 3 years. And that frustrates the hell out of me. Yeah. I just, they do everything. And then, this case we just won, they're likely to appeal just because they can hang on to the money and they say, hey, look, we're going to appeal. We'll offer you X amount of dollars, shave off 25, 30%. I'm like, no, that's happened to me 6 or 7 times in my career. And I've said no every time, and I'll say no every time that I can. And they've never won on appeal.
What's the most profound thing that a client has said to you that sticks out in your mind?
Well, in this last one thing, she just sees the doctor testifying, and she says, "Why is he lying about me? Why would he say something about that?" I said, "He's paid to do that." She said, "Don't they take an oath to help people?" And she's just naive.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the business of insurance defense. So there's probably some more profound things, but that's the one that just sticks in my mind.
So even under oath, people will bend the truth in certain cases. I mean, is it, as an attorney, you got to be able to shuck and jive and figure out how to get around that. And, at that point, they become, contempt of court, I would imagine.
Yeah. I tell my clients, the worst thing you can do on the stand is lie or exaggerate. As a defendant, you can lie and get away with it because the jury might empathize. Well, if I was sued, I might, take that path. When I was in law school, I had the opportunity to try cases before I got my law degree. I worked for the district attorney's office, and I would prosecute people in Humphreys County, where I was born and raised. And one of the first cases I had was a DUI defendant where the police chased this guy. He went to his home. The defendant, drunk driver, went to his home and went inside and locked the door. The police got a warrant, got inside, knocked the door open. And his defense was, for the first time at trial, I heard this, "Well, I went inside and I was so nervous that I got a fifth of Jim Beam and I just chugged it."
All right.
And I looked at the DA who was monitoring me and guiding me, and I said, "He's lying under oath. Can you believe this?" He said, "Kid, wise up. That's what they do."
Yeah. Oh, really? Really?
And I was just so naive. I couldn't believe, I was just wide-eyed and just thinking, man, who lies in court? And like, people do it.
Yeah.
People do it.
Well, it's just a matter of getting away with it and being called out.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just shows my naivete, I guess. But
what about in depositions? I guess that happens a little bit more rampantly.
Yeah. I mean, we depose more. I mean, where I'm doing it every week. I got another one today at 2:00.
Do you?
I think the biggest thing that I kind of do is like, I don't like somebody, I call it the hinting defense. They won't come out and call your client a liar, but they'll hint at it. They'll say, "Oh, well, the damage wasn't very much. Everybody else in the wreck was okay. Or you didn't tell the EMS worker that your neck was hurting at the time." And it's just, I call it the hinting defense. Why don't they just have the balls to come out and say, "You're a liar"? They don't do that. They just hint. And so I always have this vision in my head as like a log, and I'm trying to get them to take an extreme position. Are you calling her a liar, a fraud, and a cheat? And I tell the jury, like I did last trial, if you think the client's a liar, a fraud, and cheat, you need to not give us anything. Zero, and I mean it. But if you think that they're just trying to infer that she's a liar, she deserves a full cup of justice for this case.
Right.
They shouldn't get any discounts on justice because they're calling her, inferring that she's a liar.
What do people need to understand about the law business, suing people and lawsuits and everything? What do you wish they understood?
Just the game of the insurance defense. I wish they understood that. I wish more jurors understood the fact that insurance companies are, I don't know. I think it's everything we've talked about.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being redundant, but I just wish they knew that insurance companies were, it's just cutthroat, and the ways they defend these cases. They don't accept responsibility. They just try to nitpick it, and they're entitled to do that. Everybody's entitled to a defense. If I was being sued, this is another misconception. I wish people understood that the lawyer that represents a defendant really has a conflict. They're really representing the insurance company. Because if I've been, like when I rear into somebody one time and I said, "Look, man, I am so sorry. I saw them out. I bought their dinner, I sent them a card. I made sure their lawn was mowed. I said, look, man, if you're going to hurt in a day or two, I hit you pretty hard. You need to, and if you need to sue me," I said, "Sue me." If my insurance company, so I call my insurance company, like, take care of him.
Yeah.
And if you've hurt somebody in a wreck, and I've got videos on this on my website, but it doesn't matter. The insurance company's already dinged you for at fault.
Yeah.
What you want at that case is you want to get your name on that release and get it done. But the insurance company can create a problem for you. They'll deny fault. That's another thing, another misconception. Insurance companies will deny fault and clear rear-end liability claims. They'll deny it, and then the day before trial, they'll say, we admit fault. We don't want to talk about anything that happened. Ladies and gentlemen, we admit fault. We just don't. They should be given a blank checkbook. I'm like, are you kidding me? Y'all fought this for 3 years. It's just very dishonest. It's just trickery and deceit.
Yeah. We admit it, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not, I always tell them the truth about what my granddaddy said is if you mess up, you fess up and you make it right.
Right.
They may fess up or use the words, but actions speak out louder than words. Let's look at their actions. What have they done?
Well, when you have precedent set that, hey, there's a possibility I could get away with this, might as well, I've got the money to fight it and the horsepower. Yeah. The money to spend to fight it is a lot less than what the potential payout is, and roll the dice.
Yeah, and there's a lot of lawyers.
It's a gamble.
I think trying a personal injury case today is an art form.
Yeah.
And a lot of lawyers who do divorce and domestic and criminal work, they may be excellent lawyers in their craft, but when you try to think, this is an injury case and I'm going to get 2 or 3 times the medical bills easily in this case or get a big verdict, they're going to screw the case up. They're going to screw it up. And the other misconception is a lot of these lawyers that advertise as personal injury lawyers, they never go to court and they never will go to court.
Right.
They're scared to death to go to the courtroom. And I love going to court, but I love settling cases too. But, our reputation helps us settle those cases.
Well, I imagine you go to court, it's a big commitment, and it's just taking it all the way. And if you get a settlement, you can, finally, because you as an attorney, you've got so many things you've got to deal with. You got other cases. There's only so many cases you can handle at a time, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. What's that number typically for you personally? It's juggling.
I've got 4 attorneys who work for me, so I got the luxury now.
Sure.
But I try most all the cases and teach my other lawyers who are great lawyers. They do try their own cases. But I will typically pre-COVID, I would try about 3 cases a year.
Right.
COVID, we had none. I didn't try a case for about 18 months. And so the last week was the first one back in. And I was so excited and scared to death. And I was a little rusty, to be honest with you. But right now, between now and the end of the year, we've had such a backlog because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I've probably got 6 trials between now and the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that's considered a lot.
See, what I love about you is the fact that you've got a personality, man. I think I've always known that about you, and I've always liked you because of it. And one of the reasons why is I saw a very uncanny video of you on Facebook doing an impression of none other than Negan from The Walking Dead, man. It was spot on. Like one of these days, we just got to get you doing that and get it on Facebook, or go to his Facebook page. Is John Griffith?
His Facebook is John Griffith.
And you got to repost that or something. That's a great video.
The best part of that video is my 12-year-old daughter. She's about 8 years old. She's looking at me with her mouth wide open, like, "Who is this person who just stepped in front of me?"
Yeah,
thanks.
And you were holding one of her toys, I think.
Yeah, it was like a little noodle or something.
Yeah.
That was
Lucille.
Lucille. That was Lucille.
Well, with that being said,
Lucille here.
We've talked a lot of frustrations, but I'll go ahead and ask why not.
What's your problem?
Yeah, we got a jingle, man. What's the problem you're dealing with? Like, other than all the stuff we talked about, is there anything else keeping you up at night?
Yeah, currently we are understaffed.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed a lawyer this morning. I'm blessed with a problem of where I just need to, I'm a process guy. I'm always focused on process. I'm like, if McDonald's can open a McDonald's in China and it tastes just like the ones in the United States, if they want to do that, why can't we run 2 law firms or 1 law firm and have it flawless?
Or even open up a McDonald's and have people to staff it.
Yeah.
They just opened up a First Watch down here in Spring Hill. And these local restaurants are struggling because they can't find help.
Right.
But here's this First Watch that just opened. They've got full staff. And I'm like, where are they finding these people?
Most of the restaurants right now are understaffed.
They're completely. But what about First Watch was able to get them on board,
Yeah. What about Chick-fil-A? I mean,
Exactly.
look at their process. They're process fanatics.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so I'm always reading books, Traction and all these other systemic operation books. And so that, but, I think I've got business coaches and business mentors that I
Who's your
utilize.
flavor of the month right now? Because we go through a lot of business coaches and such.
I use Atticus. I've got a Glenn Finch. He's excellent. I just love him. And Ben Glass, a great legal marketing. I use him. And I used to not have a marketing director, and my marketing would be kind of up and down. I'd get real busy. I'd work the cases, no marketing, and go down. And it was just a big roller coaster. And the biggest thing Ben Glass taught me into is like, man, bite the bullet, hire a marketing director full time.
Yeah.
And that's been great. It's been
So you brought one on how long ago?
about a year and a quarter ago.
And what have they're just doing a lot of the outward.
Yeah. So my marketing is very simple. It's number one, I market as a lawyer by trying cases. I want to have an excellent reputation, and I think we've gained that, or we're always working on it.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of young lawyers who are not affiliated with my firm that I mentor. I'm like, I think a rising tide lifts all boats, and I want to help them. But I've got my website. I use Foster Web Marketing. They're fantastic, and that's kind of the hub of the wheel. Yeah. And then I use I have a hard copy written newsletter. I have 3 different ones that go to 3 different groups of potential clients.
Right.
And then I just getting to know people and just being out and about.
Is it brand awareness? Is that the biggest challenge? Because I equate your business to the collision business, the heating and air conditioning, and personal injury, because it's the last thing you want to have to need.
True.
Right?
Very true. I don't like
until you need it.
I'm not opposed to TV advertising, but I choose not to do it.
Right.
And one of the reasons is if I try a case, the last thing I want to do is have people in the jury that would be opposed to that, or especially do it in bad taste. I would never do that. But, I kind of use it as a shtick whenever I try my cases. Like, how many of you think there's too many frivolous lawsuits? What do you think caused that? Inevitably, they're going to say, oh, it's the commercials I see on TV. And I'm like, well, how many's going to hold it against me because I don't get on TV and tell everybody how good I think I am,
or how much money I got for somebody?
Yeah. I don't like that. I think there are some good attorney ads out there, especially ones that talk about juries not being aware of insurance and things like that I like.
Right.
But my business, just the growth, and I think this is a short-term problem, but we've outgrown our space. We've outgrown our current staff, and I'm trying to hire excellent lawyers. I'm not afraid to hire guys that are smarter than me in some certain area.
Well, and there's an element that if you're the smartest person in your circle of friends or people you hang out with the most, that's a problem.
Yeah. So I've got that covered.
Yeah. But that's okay. Even here at Blvd, I'm not above. If I can do the task, I'll help you do it, or I'll do it myself, or whatever. But typically, if I'm around here and we're the smartest people in the room, that's an issue. Yeah. 3 partners that we have that run the business, we kind of lift each other up, and hopefully are beacons for our employees. But a lot of the time, we'll have people in that work for us that hopefully, they can do things that we can. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trump did the same. Most presidents do that. Yeah. Good ones, at least.
I think some other good advice I've gotten from my business mentors is don't cater your firm around the personnel that you have necessarily. Cater your personnel around the needs of your firm. Like, I've got these people. We can't do that, but let me see if I can nudge them that way. If you need a certain person, hire that person, and be very specific about what you want. Hire slow, fire fast. Right. I think there's a book on that too.
Yeah. I've heard that whole mantra before. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other aspect of what I was going to ask you was contending with growth, process, and staffing, and all that fun stuff. Have you ever heard of Bill Handel?
No.
And he had a radio show out of LA called Handle on the Law.
Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah, I remember him.
There's not, I mean, I'm sure there's probably legal podcasts out there, but I think ultimately, because I think you have a good personality and you're very well thought out and well spoken, you need a podcast because they're marketing machines. And, I'm not just saying it because I could do it for you. I think you'd really benefit from it, With this podcast, it's not just the episode that, gets big dot exposure. It's the clips we can pull from it. And in any given episode, you could pull 20 clips. You could pull 10. You could pull 5, whatever. And having, some sort of micro approach to different questions. You could take questions from people as you're doing these shows via Clubhouse, which is something we're looking into.
I'm definitely open to that. I think it's good because we can just talk about the stuff I'm doing every day.
Right. Because, a lot of what you do is storytelling.
Yeah.
It really is. What do people listen to podcasts for? It's to learn and to be entertained.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's to be entertained and then to learn.
Yeah. I've thought of an idea of having, can you believe the adjuster said this?
That could be a segment, I believe, of your overall show.
Yeah. So I had an issue last week, or a couple of months ago, but I just set up my video camera. I'm like, I'm just going to record this call.
There you go.
We think that your 5-year-old is responsible for picking up that paperclip and putting in there. We think they're going to hold them 50% responsible and not going to pay your claim. I'm like, well, y'all should have been watching him at this daycare. You don't let 5-year-olds pick up paperclips and stick them in electrical outlets.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they blamed the 5-year-old kid was hilarious to me.
That's I think that could certainly be, the quote of the week type of segment you can do.
Yeah.
If you do a weekly podcast, you call it the John Griffith Show.
Yeah.
I'm even thinking of, the intro could sound like the theme to the Andy Griffith Show. Why not? Something along those lines. I'm envisioning it.
Yeah,
but make sure you got the video component, the audio component, all that stuff. And just have somebody that's pulling, you could turn every single episode into a blog and get the SEO capabilities and benefits out of it.
Multi-purpose, everything.
Totally. They're marketing machines and they're like doing what we do now when you have a conversation that's just natural and free-flowing like we're having.
Yeah.
A lot of these things, creativity begets creativity.
Yes.
Agreed.
And
ideas just kind of come out as we talk, right?
Agreed.
The more I listen to you, I'm like, this guy needs a podcast.
Yeah, man.
I've always thought that, though.
We'll discuss that after. Yeah. I like that. We've touched on it before. And let me get fully staffed. And let's talk in 2 weeks. I think I'll have it licked by then, at least.
And it's not something you have to look at. I have to have something out every week. It could be once a month for starting out. Just get your feet wet.
I agree. I'm definitely up for that.
Yeah. And because in a lot of things is that if you're looking to meet, I always tell people there's so many different virtues, but typically about 4 or 5 that I talk about is that I think it helps you become a better orator. Becomes you a better salesperson as well. It helps you get exposure for your business or whatever it is that you're doing. Who do you want to meet? I think that's one of the biggest virtues of having a podcast. It's like, who do you want to bring on and invite them on? I think in this day and age, it's getting a little bit harder to do because there's so many podcasts out there, and some of the people that are of high profile are probably getting invites every day. Mm-hmm. But if there's somebody in a corporate structure or a business you've always wanted to get a connection to, or an elected representative, I've had, the former mayor of Spring Hill and 2 of our aldermen on so far. That's a good thing for our business.
Yeah.
It's familiarity. For us to bring people inside of our building is familiarity. We get to show them what we do, give them the tour, the whole 9 yards. So it's not just because of this is what I do. These things are just marketing machines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing them inside your office. People are becoming familiar with you.
Yeah.
So a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
They're also a lot of work. They can be, but I think for the least amount of money outlay, it's probably one of the biggest bangs for your buck.
Yeah, I think once you get the format and you had the best music coming in, man. Where did you get that?
It's just my production background. I have scores of music and subscriptions that I belong to that I can pull production music from.
Good
for all
stuff.
my clients as well.
Good stuff, man.
This is becoming a big advertisement for me. Go to JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com and check out my podcasting services.
Got a great voice, man.
Thank you.
I've always thought that.
I appreciate it. Likewise, Anything else people should know? How do people follow you and find you?
Just check out the website. I've got
which is what?
GriffithInjuryLaw.com, and YouTube channel is Griffith Law, and I kind of mix a lot of my personal with my business. Like
that's okay.
I love. I'm not going to give up my day job. I love being a lawyer, but I've secretly, closetly wanted to be a rock and roll star. I play guitar, and my wife is such an elegant singer, and she's so shy about it. She was, and I had to secretly record her, and I put it on Facebook, and she got a lot of good response. And now, because of that, it's blossomed into where she sings in our church choir now, or she's a lead singer on our church.
She's gotten the confidence.
Yeah. And she still gets very, very nervous. I kind of jokingly say, I need to give you a couple of margaritas before you get up there, and she would really belt it out. But she's fantastic, man. And just to go home and to get to sing with her, just like we did a couple of days ago, just is soul candy to me. I love it.
I've been telling my brother, he moved out to Michigan, went to Thomas Cooley Law School in Lansing, and he did it because it was just where he landed, and he's been there ever since. And I said, and he's a musician as well. He plays in a Journey tribute band up there, a Bob Seger tribute band. He's been playing the keyboards and piano since he was 7 years old. So he's going to be 50 this year. Yeah. So he knows all, old time rock and roll, all that stuff. He can jam on the piano. And I said, you missed your calling coming to Nashville.
That's right, man.
Being an agent for some of these stars takes a law degree, and that it really does. He actually said to me, he says, the whole election cycle that we just went through, he says, if people had a basic legal understanding of the law, if there could be just a bottom basement type of degree you could get without getting too into the weeds, for most Americans, we'd be better off as a country. He says, I completely believe that. Is that something you've ever thought about that? And he and I have talked about a business idea, like a virtual training to go around with that.
No, it's like post-election, man, I kind of went underground. Yeah. I couldn't stand the hatred and the divisiveness, and it's been very frustrating to me. And I've got some positions I hold right now. I'm president of Tennessee Trial Lawyers, and I can't afford to discuss my personal opinions. And that's going to change soon. I turn my gavel in. I'm going to just go rogue after that. I'm going to have my AK-47 in the back of my pickup truck. I'm going to be Johnny Rebels. My true colors, my Humphreys County roots are going to come out.
Yeah, you could take the boy out of the country.
Yeah, that's right. The country boy's getting ready to come back out. So.
Well, very good, man. I thank you for coming on and being a part of the show and everything. Guys, check out GriffithInjuryLaw.com and the YouTube channel. This is what I was going to say about the music side of things. There was another attorney we used to work with a lot with here for our business dealings and such, and he was a songwriter. I would imagine a lot of attorneys around here probably are musicians of some point. I said, dude, be the singing attorney. All right. Buy the URL singingattorney.com. You're a songwriter. Write little songs and jingles around different things that you're experiencing in the law business and what you do. Storytell through your songs. And he never did it. Yeah. I don't know if maybe it's not a good idea, but I mean, I think it's something that could be fleshed out and be huge.
I've even got on my bio page a YouTube video of me and my wife singing, and you don't want to look like a freak or you're not serious, but you kind of want to show them another side of you, that you're not just some robot attorney,
right?
Yeah,
you're human.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's not all about taking people to court and getting as much as you can for them and whatever.
Yeah.
You're a human being as well. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everybody, check out GriffithInjuryLaw.com. And, of course, go to what'syourproblempodcast.com and follow along, share, subscribe. Give us a review, even if you, can't stand me. I mean, give me a 1-star review. A review is a review. I mean, I'm not going to turn it down. So I encourage the 5-star reviews. But, if I'm not worth a 5-star, let me know what it will take first. Reach out to me. or just, leave whatever you think I deserve. That would be wonderful on all the different podcast platforms. Again, Mr. Griffith, thank you for coming out.
Very welcome.
Awesome.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.